Este episodio es patrocinado por Diseño de Eventos, el libro que te permite seguir paso a paso de la idea al evento, disponible ya en Amazon. Bienvenido, esto es Universo Expositor. Universo Expositor, un espacio dedicado al diseño, producción y realización de eventos corporativos y sociales. Entrevistas con personalidades de la industria de eventos y consejos para convertirte en un super crack de los eventos. Universo Expositor con José Martínez.
Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Jose Martinez, and in today's episode, we're gonna be talking with Lance Fensterman. Lance is the president for ReedPOP. So welcome, Lance. How are you?
Great. Happy to be here. Happy to be in space with you. So.
I know. That's awesome. And we will start with your liking for Legos and your childhood. How was it? What can you tell us about that?
I think I was mostly cursed by a happy childhood, I think. So I'm still recovering from that. That means I've got to find other things to blame for how weird and messed up I am now. But early on, in fact, this is some of the original space Legos that are on the screen behind me from 1977 was the first space Lego kit that was released. And I got one of these kits for Christmas one year. Probably 1980 or 1981. I'm dating myself, and immediately fell in love with Legos. It was the only toy I wanted, I think, because I have a weird relationship left brain, right brain. I like the order that comes with instructions and building something as you're supposed to, but then I have a left brain thing where I can just rip it all apart and build anything I can dream up. So I like that combination of building something the way you're supposed to and then doing whatever you want and using your creative mind to build and rebuild and imagine. My love affair with Legos and with creative destruction continues on well into my 40s.
So tell me about your childhood. How was you as a child? What did you like to do?
I've always been I've been a pretty outgoing kid my entire life, but I also was, I was very outgoing, very energetic, and it was hard to kind of harness me. So I remember, in grade school, my desk was permanently moved to the hallway because I was constantly disrupting and making comments and acting out. So I was kind of the class clown my entire life. I was always far more interested in doing things than I was talking about them. So that translated throughout my life to being a fairly unconventional learner, as they say. I'm curious and enjoy acquiring knowledge, but I was never a very good student of sitting still and being told about something. I just wanted to go do it. So I was always a pretty high energy individual. Again, it's translated pretty directly into my adult life, which is like I'm on the move always. I like to be doing. I'm less about theory and more about practice and things like that. But yeah, I can't complain. I think I had a lot of very tolerant teachers that put up with my antics for a long time until they could get rid of me anyway.
So I guess that really matched perfectly with what you have to do throughout the world, because, when you're negotiating in the world, you need to know about their culture and be flexible in the time, in the way people negotiate and the way they see life, the way they see actually everything related to what you're looking at. So really, it's very, very important to be flexible. And I think that creativity that you had helped you on that. And how it was that you came to the event industry? What was that path, that took you to be another one there?
Like if you're constantly moving, as I am, then you're often going in the wrong direction. So that means you don't usually take straight lines to get anywhere. There's lots of circuitous routes and meandering and wandering. And that's very true of how I ended up with Reed. I'd always been entrepreneurial. I've done a lot of different things, from owning restaurants to .com sites to independent bookstores. And I was working in books and publishing, and got a tip from a buddy of mine at a big publisher, and he said, they're looking for somebody to run the trade show, the book trade show, the publishing trade show. It was a show called Book Expo. I thought, well, that sounds interesting. I'd only been to 2 trade shows in my life, and both of them were that specific show. So I thought, well, I'm uniquely qualified. 100% of my trade show experience is with that show. So I should really be the guy to run it, I guess. So I ended up talking to Reed Exhibitions about this show. And I had no idea that running events was even a job, right? I thought it was something you just sort of did in your spare time. So they made me interview with a lot of people because I think they recognized I was unconventional. And I remember in my interview, if it's event people watching this, you'll think this is funny. But in my interview, I kept asking, well, what do I do the rest of the year? Like when I'm not running the show, like, what do I do? But I thought, like, this is like a seasonal job. You know, I can't afford to take a seasonal job. I need a full-time job. And they laughed and said, like, no, I mean, you'll stay busy. You'll be immersed in your industry. And I was kind of like, all right, like these suckers think this is a full-time job. Like I'll get it done in 6 months and maybe I'll go get a second job. Anyways, I ended up talking my way in or not talking my way out of the job. And I got the job running Book Expo America. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, I know about that. And that is the reason why I would like to ask you, probably we think that to be in the Book Expo, you need to be really, really, intellectual and really, you have to know.
Nobody told me.
All these theories about, I don't know, like really, really in a different mood of what you are in your heart and in your personality. Yeah. So how was that? I mean, because of course, you had the chance to meet with authors that were like really kind of cool or with a flow, but really other that probably were very intellectual. So how you coped with that, and how was for you that experience?
So I said I like to do. I don't necessarily like to listen. And so before I joined Book Expo, I was running independent bookstores, and independent bookstores are really about curating books and putting the right book literally into the hand of a person. So you needed to have a wide knowledge base on books, and I didn't. So what I had, and this is the secret to my entire existence, is I know just enough and no more. So if I read the first 5 chapters of 100 books, then I could talk about that book, right? I could say, well, this is what is interesting about this book. So I learned, and I've learned that about events. I've learned that about pop culture. I've learned that about raising kids. Like, just know enough to get by. So I knew a little about a lot of different books and writers and genres. And that actually served me well running Book Expo America as well, where you are interacting with a lot of different authors. And, there it was about knowing your customer's business. And so it was, you didn't have to know every book, but you needed to know the authors, and you needed to know what books were important to your customers, your publishers in a given year, right? So that you were aware of what was really important to Random House that fall, and be aware of that front list and things like that. So, I knew what I needed to know, enough to be dangerous, I guess.
That's awesome. And one thing that I really love about what you do is that you focus so much on the customer, on the visitor. I really learned that from you. The last, things you've been doing for Comic Con New York, where basically you see the people, you see the little kids, you see the moms, you see the persons, but you don't see the brands. You see the real fan there at the expo. And I love that. It's just that mindset that really puts you in a different mood. And when I learned that from you, when we were working together in Reed, when I did other projects, I said, this is the right thing to do, like really focusing, because then you don't have to struggle with the brands to, do you want to be here, please? No, I mean, I have your people with me, come and you'll have that people too. So tell me a little bit about that strategy that you use so much and so well.
Yeah. It's interesting because when we started ReedPOP in 2006, 2007, we were a part Reed Exhibitions, a big B2B trade show company, and really the company was focused on exhibitors, right? That was their business model, was selling space to exhibitors. And we just didn't honestly have that opportunity. Like, we were starting a new business. There weren't any big customers. There weren't any big brands that wanted to be a part of what we were doing because it was completely unproven. It was a wild idea, that had no track record. So we weren't going to draw in big company ABC or big content producer ABC. We needed to focus on a community. And I think we realized that if we could engage with those fans, if we could engage with that community of people and delight them, right, then they would come and more would come and more would come. And eventually we'd have scale. And if you have 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 fans, those brands then are going to want to come. They're going to want to put their products and their content in front of that rabid audience. So it really wasn't necessarily like a lot of good ideas. You realize it was a good idea in hindsight. It's not like we necessarily got it on day one. It's fun to rewrite the history and make it look that way, but it was necessity. We didn't have the option of saying, let's get Netflix and HBO and Lego, and they weren't coming. They didn't want to talk to us. They wouldn't take our phone calls. So we had to work with what we could. And then, over time, it became a good story that we could look back and point to and say, oh yeah, we knew it all along. We did.
Well, it did pay off, because now ReedPOP is all over the place, all over the world, and it's been a business model that is growing and growing with media and printed and digital and exhibitions all over the place. So it really paid off. So going a little bit back, because I don't want to miss the opportunity to ask you in particular, what are some of the books you think we should be reading?
I like that. After I admitted that I don't read as many books as I should, you still ask that question. So yes, I applaud you.
I do want to know, because if you read it, maybe it's an awesome book.
I have to tell you, I almost exclusively read nonfiction and graphic novels. So I don't read a lot of fiction at all. I very much enjoy nonfiction. And of course, President Obama's memoir is out as of last week and is breaking all kinds of records. At 700 pages, I probably won't read it, but I think everybody watching this who has a better attention span than me should. So I'll say that. What I will say is, I personally, we're in a charged cultural and political climate, particularly here in the United States. And I think when you're in those moments, it becomes difficult to know who to believe. And I always really enjoyed going back to classics and classic sort of cultural and political works. And I mean, all the way back, whether it's, Common Sense or, Ron Chernow's biography of Jefferson, or, looking back to sort of foundational figures, and I'm speaking very American-centric here, can be guiding about how to interpret today's events, which are highly partisan, and there's lots of opinions at play. So it's maybe silly to say, go read Thomas Locke, but it's a good foundation of history to have in your back pocket as you're trying to navigate today's waters. So there you go. That's I don't know if that's a great book recommendation, but it's more of a way to hone your thinking.
Well, I find it very interesting, because what it tells me about you is that you are interested on probably learning about the leadership behind the politics. And that is so fit with the fact that you have been a great leader for all the ReedPOP staff. And that is, so challenging, because it's from different cultures, from different countries. And just to make it happen, and really with the pressure that we know as, trade show organizers, that we need to deliver to our company. So that brings me to the fact that pop culture is probably one of the growing markets around the globe. You've been I think you have been part of that growth, because you are bringing all this pop culture to these different places and make it stronger. So as what does pop culture tells you? What does that mean for you in particular?
Yeah, it's about passion and self-expression, and sort of finding your community. What we realized early on is that this isn't about a toy or a T-shirt or a game or a movie. It's about an expression of your own identity and finding common ground to connect with others on, right? Okay. And I'm not suggesting that loving a video game isn't about that game. It is, or about a graphic novel or about a toy. Of course it is. I love Lego. But at this point, it's become much more about, it's part of my identity, right? That is part of who I am. And it's a place in which I can connect with others via. And I think in a world in which we are increasingly, especially now during the pandemic, we're operating as individuals in a somewhat isolated world, right? That finding common ground to connect on and to gather around and to talk about and to celebrate is really, really important. It's what is binding us. And so to me, it's a toy or a video game or a movie or a TV show. But that's not the point about it. It's the emotional connection that's fostered beneath that is really powerful and can change the world, without being too Pollyanna-ish. So.
I really do believe that because, as many books have told, what is behind a hero, about behind the story of that hero that sometimes is the anti-hero, is basically the finding of emotions of what is that person is looking for to become what he has to become in the very end. Yeah. And maybe that's the path we all take. We want to know what we have to be or what we want to be or what we should be. And maybe these role models give us, probably an opportunity to maybe say, well, I really like Spider-Man because he was like this and this and this, or I really like, Iron Man or whoever, because I identified with the feelings and with that hero path that is behind the person who is, being this character. So that's really amazing. And in your international experience, do you think these values are valid worldwide, or have you seen a difference between, doing a show in China or Singapore that you have shows there, or Germany? You've done Star Wars celebrations in Germany one time, and now it's back in the US, and then you do, I don't know, so many emeralds. And so what are the differences, or what are the connections that we as humans catch behind these feelings of being part of the pop culture?
We laugh sometimes on my team because our fans look very similar all over the world, and I don't mean here. I mean, they're what they wear, how they express themselves. We can pick out our people, our fans, no matter where we are in the world, and there's something quite heartening about that, in a world that is politically divided, and stratified and polarized, that all different types of people can come together around shared passion and interest. And we've found that to be very, very true, no matter where you are in the world, from Brazil to France to Russia, that there is a common sort of passion, DNA, behavior that is shared. And look, it may be different content. It may be expressed slightly differently, but the underlying emotion and motivation and drive is quite shared. And again, I think there's something comforting about that, right?
Right, because it tells us that we are actually the same at the very end. It doesn't matter how we look, but we are looking for the same things, probably love at a certain point.
Correct. Acceptance. Yep. Acceptance, like common bonds, common connections, shared emotional experiences. Like these are all on-ramps to friendships. Like these are all things that are base. You know what I mean? That are shared by everyone. So.
That's awesome. That's really, really awesome. And now going a little bit back to you, one of the things that really I admire so much, because as you all know, I'm really a fan of Lance, and we connect. I follow him in Facebook and Twitter and all that. So I always see you as a family man. You always, when you really, you have the time because you're very busy and, besides now you are always traveling. You connect very well with your family and you seem very happy. And now your two daughters and your wife, and you support her, what she's doing with the horses and all this stuff. So how you keep that magic going on? Because being far away, being with all this pressure from the probably corporate world, telling you need to do more, even though you have accomplished so many things. How do you keep that magic?
It's interesting. Some days, well, first of all, we have a lot of help. We're a two working parent household, both with demanding jobs that we love a lot, and both my wife Sarah and I derive a lot of our satisfaction and identity from the work we do. So we have a lot of help that allows us to do those things and be outside the home quite a bit. Somewhat ironically, I moved into a new office, which is actually the house next to my house. So I'm outside the home working, but I can literally right over there see my house. So if I need to, I can look out the window and see our kids. I think I'm not an expert, and I've only been a dad for 4 years. But what I've learned is that there's a ton of variables, most of which you can't control. But the only thing you can control is choosing your partner wisely. and I chose my partner, or she chose me, I suppose, depending on how you look at it, well, right? Because a lot of things become rapidly out of your control. And you're learning on the fly and making it up as you go along and hoping you're doing the right things. But one thing you can control is, who you've chosen to take that adventure with and how you choose to treat each other and support each other along the pathway. And I'll just say briefly, it's been an interesting time because, my business, ReedPOP on the event side is, of course, very challenged. And I'm used to winning and growing and exceeding and expanding, and suddenly it's very different right now, and it's tough. It's tough at times to really stay up. The flip side is my wife has broken away from a long time employer and started her own business, and she's launching something in the face of the pandemic and brand new, and it's all exciting and new, and it's a very interesting dichotomy between where we're both at, and it's been wonderful to have her new venture to pour my energy and excitement into, and to place a lot of optimism where my business right now is challenged, right? And so I've got to come to work every day with energy for those people. So it's fun to have a place to put that building energy that I love on her new business, and it actually then fuels my energy to come back to my work and build anew and push forward and keep my team buoyant and up. So it's been really good. It's been we've all learned a lot about ourselves and our world and our business, I think, over the last 7 months of this crazy pandemic. Not all lessons we wanted, but some, I think, positive lessons that we probably didn't expect. So
that's awesome. That means that the message I'm getting is that you can be an entrepreneur even in these times.
Sure.
And how would you say is that possible? You have to change your mindset. You have to change the way you see things. What has been good for you in this time with your wife project?
Yeah, well, I think, she's chosen wisely in that she's in a very good industry that's relatively, knock on wood, recession proof. But she's building it smartly and soundly. For me within ReedPOP, I've been using this phrase a lot, which is rebuilding is still building. So we may be going back and doing things we've done before and building them back up, but I love to build and I love to create. And I think it's easy to get disheartened and say, we used to be like this size or this scale, and now we're only this. Well, I'm going to be that scale again, and I'm going to exceed it. But now we get the chance to build again with all the knowledge that we've accumulated, right? So you kind of get a clean slate. So if there's things that you don't like about your business, well, don't worry. You can easily change it now. Like, you've got permission. You can do that, right? Like if, we've made significant acquisitions and investments within ReedPOP on, digital and websites and content production.
Yes.
If I had those sorts of assets and thinkers in 2007, I'd have built a very different company, right? Well, now I do, so I can rebuild a very different looking company. So I'm not dissuaded by the idea of rebuilding, because if you had the chance to do things again with the knowledge you have today, you do them differently, and we get that chance. So that's exciting to me. Some days you've got to remind yourself of that, right? Because these are tough times that we're in as business leaders. But if you remind yourself of that, you can bring that energy and enthusiasm that our industry, our customers, our teams, our families need.
Yeah, and how has been the reactions of the fans? Because in the pop culture, when you are fan, you are fan. You're not just halfway. You are a fan, and the fact that I cannot, wear my costume, go to the show, see my friends, see the people I want to see, buy the things that I want to buy, probably brings a lot of frustration. So how are the fans behaving right now in the digital world?
Yeah, so they've got, in some ways they've got all the content they crave and love right in front of them, right? Delivered to their face. And that should be gratifying. But it's sort of like, if a cosplayer falls in the forest and nobody's there to take their picture, does it make a sound? You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same. Like if you can't celebrate it, talk about it, dress up as it, it's not quite the same. So I think we've had great participation in the, online offerings we've made. Our website and YouTube channels and sites their traffic is through the roof. There's hunger for the new video game consoles, and a lot of those games now are totally interactive and can be played online with friends, right? So there's a lot of good things there. But we still see in empirical data, they want to get together. They're hungry for it. And the caveat is, of course, in the right conditions when it's safe. But there's a hunger for it. And, does that mean when we're able to gather, the shows will look the same, or they'll be of the same scale? Of course not. But we'll come back to it, and we'll always have now that well-built digital interaction sitting alongside our physical events. That's a wonderful addition to our repertoire and our toolkit. But the data says they want to get together and they want to gather, and we're appreciative of that hunger, and we're ready to meet it.
So Lance, just to do a little bit of wrap up, because I know you're really busy, and I really thank you so much for the opportunity. I would like to know, can you please share 3 or 4 superpowers that now a person who wants to be a trade show or a show organizer, a convention organizer, needs to have nowadays to make it happen?
Enthusiasm and energy. Of course I'm a little biased, but I think enthusiasm and energy are critical. You're working, I say to my team, you got to really want to do this, because it's hard, and there are easier ways to probably make more money. So you've got to love this, you know what I mean? And so you've got to be willing to work long hours, travel, whatever it is. So you've got to come with energy and enthusiasm. We ultimately work in a service industry, right? Like we build fun for other people. We build business solutions for other people. We serve our customers, often in a very hand-to-hand sort of way. So you need to have energy and enthusiasm. I really believe, kind of building on that, you have to have a servant mindset. And the restaurateur in New York, Danny Meyer, said, I want to hire people that enjoy making other people happy, that enjoy giving other people pleasure in some way, right? And in his world, it's food. But you have to really have a servant mindset that says, I want to take care of that customer. I want to serve my teams and my people. I want to deliver what it is they're looking for. There's a lot of more solitary work that you don't have to serve. You don't have to have enthusiasm. But I think those things are really critical. You also, I think, have to have a vision, because we do a lot of very theoretical work until it isn't, and now being very involved in our website business, which is a significant business for us. And, there you can try and fail 25 times throughout a day and you just move on. Where in our world, you got to have a vision, and it better be right, because at some point in the very near future, you're going to have to physically construct the thing, and bring people into it. So you don't get to trial and error once the hard wall's being put up and the floor is being put down. So you've got to have vision, I think. And then I guess the last thing I think is always a good trait is you got to have a sense of humor. If you take yourself too seriously, if you take yourself too seriously, it's really tough to be enthusiastic and to serve, which I think are critical things. And it just makes your life longer if you can laugh a little bit. So.
I absolutely agree. With you that, saying that, we are part of the hospitality sector, meaning, we need to be welcoming to people, that we also need to serve everybody from the fans to the exhibitors and probably ourselves too, in the way that we need to enjoy what we do to be happy and to have a wellness for us too. 100%. So that's awesome. Lance, thank you so much for the opportunity. I wish you all the best, and we'll keep in touch. We will probably have the opportunity to travel to one of the many shows you have all around the world sometime soon, and we'll be delighted on everything that you put into the offer to the people that visit the show, and the amazing team you have. Jose,
thanks for having me, and I miss being down and seeing you in Mexico City. And I remember it's the worst red eye ever, leaving Mexico City up to JFK, where it's about, I think it leaves at midnight and gets in at 5 a.m. and you get about 4 hours of sleep. It's terrible. And I like you so much, I miss taking that flight. So I hope we get together soon.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Esto fue Universo Expositor. Acompaña a José Martínez en el próximo episodio con más consejos y entrevistas de personalidades que te convertirán en un super crack de los eventos. Este episodio fue patrocinado por Grupo Marketing Activo, generadores de ideas disruptivas potenciando el crecimiento de tu empresa. Ofrecemos organización de eventos corporativos, catas y experiencias sensoriales, diseño y producción de espacios, movilidad y hospedaje, comunicación y relaciones públicas. Grupo Marketing Activo.